we have to look for opportunities to prove our output, improve our value to the business. And we look at ways to build tools into the system that are technology advances, but also AI. But payroll is changing. I've always felt like it's relatively binary. Payroll is either correct or it's incorrect. We think about the experience rather than the binary piece of right and wrong, because I feel like the binary piece has been taken care of. And now it's like, well, where's the opportunity to change this and make it better and, really uplift payroll professionals and actually see what else they can actually do in the business that they work in, or if they're in a bureau or an accounting firm, how can they actually help their clients even more?
Managing a global team is complex, but Deel makes it simpler with payroll, HR, IT, and compliance all in one place. That's why over 35,000 businesses trust Deel to hire, pay, and manage their teams worldwide. See how Deel works at deel.com/nickday. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform. Hello and welcome back to the Payroll Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Nick Day. I'm the CEO at JGA Recruitment Group, and we are global payroll specialist recruiters. If you're new to the show, welcome. Please remember to click subscribe or follow, depending on whether you are getting this content on audio or video platforms. Please also, if you can, share this episode with all of your payroll colleagues and friends, because together as a payroll community worldwide, we want to raise the profile of payroll. And I've got a guest who's doing exactly that with a brand new concept. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Fitzgerald. He's UK Managing Director at Employment Hero. They're a global authority on employment, and they're revolutionizing the way that SMEs manage their people, compliance, and of course, payroll. Now, Kevin's career spans 2 decades. He began as an ACCA qualified accountant in practice, audits, and hedge funds before transitioning into leadership roles in the tech industry, including spearheading Xero's growth across Asia. An Irish native who has lived and worked in the UK, Australia, and Singapore, Kevin is absolutely and unbelievably passionate about helping SMEs succeed by using the right tech and, of course, empowering the employee experience. I think we're talking a lot about on this show. And today we're going to explore exactly how they're doing that, because Employment Hero are taking a bold step in offering free payroll software. Yes, you heard that correctly. And we're going to discover today what that means for small businesses who are battling cost, complexity, and compliance concerns. We'll also uncover why 31% of SMEs still process payroll manually and how AI is reshaping payroll operations, which is exactly why the right tech can really make employment more valuable for everyone. So without further ado, welcome Kevin Fitzgerald to the Payroll Podcast. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling really good after that introduction. Thank you.
Delighted to have you here. I know you're all over the world, so good to catch you in one moment in time. Before we jump into the main concept of today's show, then let me ask you my first question, which is this: what does the word payroll mean to you?
I actually see it as an opportunity right now versus what it was previously, which was probably heavily compliance. But payroll is changing, right? And I've always felt like it's relatively binary. Payroll is either correct or it's incorrect, and it's based on calculations and specialization. But the way we think about it is probably quite different. Like, who decided all those years ago that people should only get paid at the end of the month? Like, who actually put those systems together? Like, what is happening in the world of payroll? And we think about the experience rather than the binary piece of right and wrong, because I feel like the binary piece has been taken care of. And now it's like, well, where's the opportunity to change this and make it better and, really uplift payroll professionals and actually see what else they can actually do in the business that they work in, or if they're in a bureau or an accounting firm, how can they actually help their clients even more? So I'd say opportunity is the way that we think about payroll right now.
Yeah, nice. I like that. It's hard to disagree with it. It's everything all about employee experience now. We almost assume that the payroll is going to be correct, right? So how can we elevate it even further? And you're doing something really interesting. I need to understand this concept, but Employment Hero are now offering free payroll. So what's the thinking behind that decision? How is it changing the game for small businesses? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, definitely bold, right? And people are saying, what do you mean free payroll? Like, what are you guys playing at really? And how we thought about it. So over the last year and a bit, I've been leading the UK business, and we've done a lot of research into like how payroll is executed, how SMEs get their hand on the right technology and the right service partner and the right talent, like say if they had somebody internally to help them. And we looked at where the software market was going. So software for payroll in the UK There's a vast array of opportunity for an SME to pick from the many, many registered payroll software providers in the UK. And we looked at like the trends, where it was headed with pricing, value, and it's clear. It was clear to us that like it is a complete race to the bottom with how businesses are charging for payroll software. Like it's getting cheaper and cheaper, which I worry about because I think when that happens, businesses then don't invest in that segment and they don't invest in the technology that they're providing. And there's been software around for a long time that is now, you're probably looking at 15, 20 pence a pay slip. And we have to think about the value and our mission that we want to bring to SMEs. So we want to make employment more valuable for everybody. So here's the piece that's really important. If we spent all of our focus and resources chasing a market that is being devalued consistently, and it ends up very commoditized, as in the software itself, not the service. The service is something we think about completely differently. What's the point? Like, if it's going to end up like very like invaluable from a revenue perspective, we have committed to investing in building the best payroll software in the UK. That doesn't change. So why would we spend more time actually chasing the revenue behind it when it's not actually there? There's a little bit of a competitive slant to it as well. Like we see competitors out there obviously dropping their prices all the time, and you end up in this really kind of silly game of a price war for software. And it's just not a battle that we want to be in. We want to step away from it and actually show people that we're committed to bringing value, not just cheaper prices. So we said, well, let's just make it free. And many, many, many people, and I'm sure I would feel the same way if I looked at it initially and said, oh, come on, free, it's probably a bit crap. That's not the case. We've taken our paid payroll product. We have taken out three major factors, I would say, which are multiple API connections. You can still have APIs to all the most popular SME softwares in the UK. Multi-PAYE isn't available in the free product. And kind of the time and attendance piece actually sits in our HR side rather than payroll. So it can do everything that an SME needs it to do right now. So it's not a on-ramp, pared down kind of crap version of payroll, because I think then that's actually putting risk into people's business by saying, oh, you can do payroll with this software, but that's just not how we're approaching it. So it's causing some waves for sure. It's a competitive move, but actually it's linked to our mission, which is to make employment more valuable for everybody, the employers and the employees.
So my head is racing here with ideas and questions. I'm going to try and keep them brief so I don't lose our audience too quickly with it or confuse them. But if we think about making it free, sometimes when things are free, you feel like you lose a little bit of the value. I'll give an example. This may be a bad example, but once when I moved house, right, I needed to sell a fridge. This is true. I put it outside and said, free to anyone who wants to take it. No one took it. I added a price to it and put £20 on it. It got nicked that evening. As soon as it was seen, this is absolutely true. This is when I moved house many moons ago, and it got stolen. And because someone then had a value to put to that thing. So that's one element. The second piece, of course, though, is a lot of the reasons people don't upgrade their software is because they don't know how to create the business case for their boards. The boards don't want to invest in payroll because, as you said at the start of this, you're paying payroll accurately and on time. Why would we need to invest? And of course, they don't always understand the impact that payroll also has on the employee experience, on attrition, on retention, and things like that. So how does this work in practice? Because we've now got to the bottom, in your words, where it's now free. So that's great for a payroll person who wants to create that business case. It's hard to argue against it. But equally, we still want to make that a valuable proposition. So how do you manage that balance?
Yeah, and that's the job in hand. Okay, so really interesting with the fridge is the psychology of the trade-off between what you're getting and what you pay or what you have to give as a trade. We're going to have to do quite a lot of work, right? Like to show people that there is a lot of value in this software. We've got to be able to stand behind the fact that it's not like a crappy offering. So we're doing that already. And like you could kind of go to the typical things, right? Like case studies, validation in the community that this is actually a really great product. But that's the pathway that we will go on and that we're certain of, that we can show that value and kind of get through that early, I guess, like very low adopter stage in where you face people that say, oh, like, where's the catch, right? Like, and are you going to triple my fees in year 2 or 3? That's not going to happen. And that comes down to how we deliver the quality of this product and the experience, and then show people that we can prove ourselves that this is actually a great product to use for free. One kind of data point already, we launched this in the last 6 weeks. We've had 370 SMEs sign up already and run payroll.
Impressive.
Right? So there is a demand. The UK is obviously a huge market, and we want to be number one. And when we become number one, we can continue to show value and keep adding to the product and, go even further. The second part on a business case, this is where we sit with payroll professionals, either that are like in-house, like full-time working for an SME, what we're seeing obviously is more fractional style payroll managers who work with 4 or 5 businesses, or even bureaus and accounting firms, like, and actually packaging it up and saying, we want to see at the table, like, we have a strategic opportunity here to bring even more value into what is sadly still considered a back office function that just works.
Yeah.
And I've lived through that, like, as an accountant, right? Like, it's the typical, you tell people at a party that you're an accountant and they kind of go, oh, okay. But we need to bring pride, right? Like, and we need to bring even more professionalism into the payroll space. And it hasn't gone away, like, that kind of negative connotation after a long time. So we want to be out there showing, hey, you got this great software. And obviously, if you need more to build on, so there's the HR tools, there's the LMS, that we can show people even more value, like, over their journey with us. But again, we've got to prove ourselves. Like, we're a relatively new entrant to the UK. 4 years is still new, right? Like, in my eyes. And the best way to actually prove yourself is to get out there and give something people that's really valuable.
Here's what I really love about the proposition. Is I mentioned in the introduction, and quite deliberately, 31% of payroll functions are still processing manually. Now, they haven't got that software. They're still working from spreadsheets. I spoke to a payroll manager recently who had 24 different Excel spreadsheets to run his payrolls. I think it's a great opportunity for payroll professionals to modernize their operation, to get into the new world of payroll tech, to start playing around with AI and some of the features that your software provides, and to do it with a free entry point. Hopefully, this is a real opportunity for those manual payroll operations who are still living in Excel and other places. I'm not saying you don't use those things, but just to help modernize your payroll operation, come away from the spreadsheets. It's a fantastic free entry opportunity for 31% of payroll operations. And that is a huge, I know we're talking about smaller SME type clients, but that's a huge number of clients. So I think that's really, really exciting. Do you think that is the spreadsheets that's keeping a lot of those payroll departments stuck from being able to progress? Is that part of the vision for you?
Yeah, like, it's a big component, right? Like, to actually sit back and say, in 2025, 1/3 of SMEs in the UK are using a spreadsheet to manage payroll. Like, that gives me the shivers, right? Like, it's kind of like, hey, like use a better system, right? Like, and I don't expect they all come to us. I'm like, you got to digitize. And where I reconcile this is, like, 84% of SMEs are still making payroll errors. So that tells me that it's likely a system and a process that's letting them down. The capability of the individual is verified and they have the skill and the capability to run payroll. But if they don't have the right systems, tools, and processes, there will be errors. And if 1/3 of businesses are still on a spreadsheet for what is a heavily compliant part of your business, like, that's exposure for a business.
Yeah.
The second part of that is, when we speak to businesses that are still on spreadsheet or on all desktop systems, they talk about the time it takes them to run payroll. It's taking us days, and I'm like, this can be different for you. We've plenty of case studies that show people go from 2.5 days down to 2 hours, like, after the second month's payroll. Like, that's a significant chunk of time. And my call out to, like, people that are in the payroll profession is, you really want to see at the table, you're going to have to show that strategic capability as well, and actually show bottom line, like, opportunity for the business. Been able to turn around to the CEO or the owner and say, hey, I've just saved my team and myself 2.5 days a month, and this is what I'd like to do next. That's the action. That's the conversation versus payroll's taking me 2.5 days. I'm still getting errors. It's so stressful. I'm getting lots of queries. Goes back to, are you using the right systems, tools and processes?
It's interesting as well, because within your core market, I should mention that 31% of businesses are still managing payroll manually, but actually I think it's 44% in SMEs, or the research I did in it for this show. When you go to smaller organizations, that jumps and is even higher. And there are a number of risks as well of sticking with those manual processes. You mentioned, was it 86% or 84%?
84%, yeah.
I know from my recruitment lens, right? If you pay someone incorrectly once in a calendar year, the chance of them looking for a new job is 25%. If you pay them incorrectly twice, that jumps to 49%. So there are lots of risks here where you can start showing that strategic value, improve retention, improve the ability to pay people accurately and on time. But do you think some of this is a mindset issue, or is it a knowledge gap? Is it simply a matter of time and resources? We've always done it this way, so why do we need to change it? That whole, why change something if it's working?
Yeah, I do think it's part of it, Nick. Like, and I've had a very fortunate career experience where the first 5 years were serving SMEs as a junior accountant, and I became qualified, and I worked in an SME firm. So I worked in a business with 25 people. All of our clients were SMEs, and I could see like the pain that they were having, but also the inertia. And what I call it is, you're stuck in today, because today is so busy and you just can't get your head up on the horizon, and you can't find a block of time in the near or short to medium term to actually make a change. And that is like, I would actually find that still quite distressing, that when I started actually working in that practice, that was 1999, right? Like, so it's 26 years later, I'm hearing the same things come true. And it's not the fault of the people who are running payroll or the people in the business trying to improve things. They're just up against the wall every day of the week trying to get their work done. And I do think there's a fear of making an error. And we know this. Like, I had a stint in recruitment for 3.5 years, right? Paying people on time. You're right. Like, you lose trust. And what I find is really interesting, the psychology of that is, if the economy is not great and someone is paid late or incorrectly, they almost draw conclusions that the business is in trouble, and they're like, I need to find another job. So like the impact and the materiality on payroll is so big in a business that I think people don't want to make any changes. We see it through implementations. We want to run parallel pay runs for 3 months or 4 months. And we're like, look, we can do it for a month or two, and we'll give you the confidence and we'll make sure it's 100% accurate. But that tells me that people are fearful of making the change multiplied by the factor of making a mistake. So we need to help with that. Like, I see that's where our kind of role comes in as well, right? To educate and show people like how it can be like a lot easier. And I use the word easier lightly as well. It's not an easy space to be in, but we want to help people actually get their head up out of, today, next week, worrying about the next pay run, and say, hey, let's find time and a bit of space for you to improve things.
Yeah, I like the way you use the word fear. I've got a passion for studying fear myself. And I was thinking, actually, you need to reverse the idea of fear. It's the fear, actually, you pay your top salesperson that's keeping your SME going incorrectly, you're going to be at risk of losing them. You start paying the top performers, that 20% in Pareto's law that are giving 80% of your revenue incorrectly, you're going to lose them. And that's probably a good way to get you bored. Well, it's not like a threat if you're going to pay them incorrectly, of course, but it's if you do it through no fault or deliberate fault of your own, that's a real risk you've got to start balancing. So we need to invest. And you talked about making payroll easier. And I haven't worked with Employment Hero software myself, but obviously you mentioned earlier, this could be a really good, or I'm assuming it could be a good opportunity for payroll people on spreadsheets to maybe have their first advance into the world of AI. Is AI playing a role in your platform? How do you balance automation with the need for human oversight? And tell us a little bit more about the platform itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, our mission is to make employment more valuable for everybody. So how we build our system and all of the tools inside of it, we think about everything employment. So it's not just payroll here and HR here and tasks and features. It's the experience of the business owner, the SME and their employees, like in all that journey. Like we've got a candidate database. So if people need to find talent, they can actually find talent through Employment Hero. We have an ATS. All of the onboarding is very slick thereafter. All of the policies from a HR perspective and business perspective are in the system. And if there's a business that operates around OKRs and specific goals and objectives, you can set that up in the system. And then it's obviously, I guess, the management and development of the individuals all through their journey while they're at that business. Yeah. And underlying that is everything compliance, whether it falls into a payroll compliance category or HR. That's all like in the system. Now, people I think it's maybe wrong of me to say easy. Let's say it's easier. Like if you're using spreadsheets, it is 100% easier to use in new age, top of the range, call it, technology system to do that work. That's I don't think anyone could argue that against me. And I'm a fan of spreadsheets from my accounting days, by the way. Now, automation. So we look for automation opportunity in every part of the system. And I think it's a bigger topic where you would say, well, how does that impact what the individual is doing? Generally, I think people should be looking for automation in the role, not replacement of what they do. I used the example of accountants quite a lot, but it applies to the payroll profession. They're both professional industries where we have to look for opportunities to, I guess, improve our output, improve our value to the business. And we look at ways to build tools into the system that are technology advances, but also AI. Something specifically in payroll, like error identification, pre-payrun, really kind of spinning up questions back to the person driving the system to say, have you seen A, B, and C? This looks a little bit odd, or it looks different from last week, last month. That's a mix of technology capability and AI. But we are all in on AI tools and actually improving the system so that the driver of the system has everything that they need, not replace the driver of the system.
Yeah, I have to agree that I'm all in on AI for payroll. I think it's going to really improve the strategic view of payroll. It's going to raise the profile. But I'm thinking back to some of the response we've given so far. So if you're a payroll person in an SME listening to this now and you've gone, well, I'm doing 2.5 days. What does that mean for me if it gets reduced to 2 hours? Am I going to lose some control? Am I going to, is automation going to give me, or mean I'm giving up some visibility? Now, of course, the counter argument from my perspective would be, no, this gives you the opportunity to be more strategic, to look at how certain trends are impacting the bottom line at payroll, to improve the employee experience. But there is some concern in the market about how this could impact. If it reduces the time it takes to process payroll, what do they do with their time? And of course, I'm assuming with your self-employment here, there's loads of things we know in terms of integrations that you can work in that employment experience. And I'm a big believer in that cross-collaboration piece for payroll. And this is the time now where payroll needs to get more involved in HR and reward and other tasks, even IT. But I'd love to get it from your perspective as someone that sees this from a full holistic view.
Yeah, I think it's naturally a human worry, right? Like when you see something that might be taken away from you, but you're in control of it. So therefore, you don't actually step into that arena. I don't think it's a new thing, Nick, right? Like people have been worried about digitization. What if I make such a big improvement to my own job? What happens to me? And that's a psychological thing. Like you've got to get on the front foot, and really think about, well, what does payroll mean in the business? And like you said, where else can I apply my skills and capability in this business to actually help the business achieve its goals, / be more successful, / be more profitable? And if there is a person out there struggling, with that thought process, I'd really encourage you to look around and actually take a step back and say, okay, first step is, this is going to happen. Digitization is rife. Second step, the owner of the business, say it's a 50-person SME, will 100% be thinking about digitization. So that's a positive conversation to have with them, not a negative. If they're the person that's thinking, you're now down to 2 hours a week, maybe not the boss that you want to be working for, right? But there is a wealth of opportunities inside of a business where improvement could be added and compounded if a payroll professional could look at it and say, okay, now I can use my time. I know all the people. I know the systems that we're using. I've now done an implementation. Where else can I get involved in the business to actually help drive the business forward? So not easy. And I feel for people because they get stuck. But, and you don't want to add fear into the equation, but I do think it needs to be a little bit of a motivator to say, if you don't do it, it might happen to you. So best you drive it than somebody else.
Attention payroll leaders. If you're listening to this, you already know that payroll has never been more complex. Compliance risks are rising, skilled talent is scarce, and getting it wrong can cost your business way more than just money. It can cost you trust, retention, and of course, brand reputation. I'm Nick Day, host of this show and also CEO of JGA Recruitment Group, specialist global payroll recruiters. Here at JGA, we're so passionate about payroll, we've even turned it into music. Don't believe us? Head to your favorite audio platform and search for Payroll Powers the World, and you can quite literally join us in song about how we believe payroll deserves its moment in the boardroom to shine. At JGA, we'd like to think our passion shines through to our recruitment results as well. With a 97% retention rate and an average 19-day job brief to hire success rate, we work fast, we work strategically, and we work with purpose to connect you to the hidden payroll talent that job ads and direct search methods will simply never reach. So if you're hiring or indeed planning to hire, why not partner with the experts that are shaping the future of payroll? Partner with jgarecruitment.com today, or better yet, drop me a message directly, and together we can make sure your next payroll hire is your best one yet.
I agree. And as you say, it's going to happen anyway. We know that in my research for the show, 77% of SMEs associate payroll with risk and complexity. And technology is easing that burden, right? We're starting to use automation to play a role in reducing errors, reducing compliance breaches, so on and so forth. So from your perspective, in terms of that adoption, I think it's over 300, nearly 400 clients have already adopted your software since you launched very, very recently as a free product. Do you think compliance is one of those biggest drivers for that tech adoption, or is it a want to get away from manual payroll? Is it a bit of both?
I think it's a bit of both. I think the key thing is smaller businesses don't have the wealth of resources, right? Like, so they're looking for ways to actually improve. And if you speak to especially somebody who is maybe the first HR hire by an SME, and I think this is really typical and common. Usually if a SME has between 30 and 70 staff, they hire a HR person, as I call it, and then they just get them to do everything.
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that a lot.
They just assume they can do payroll. So we're actually seeing people come to us say, I'm a bit stuck, right? Like we're using spreadsheets here. Like I really need a system to help me. So we would happily give them the system, but we would also say to them, hey, you do need a payroll professional to help. So we have a community of partners, obviously, that we could bring in and help them get the payroll run properly. So that's the reason why people come to us. In some ways, compliance and fear of getting it wrong is the other piece. And compliance is, I don't want to get in trouble with the authorities. I don't want to get a fine. I don't want to be in the news for just not paying people correctly. And that links to, I don't want to pay people incorrectly. I want my people to be happy. They already have to wait a month to get paid. Imagine giving people the wrong, and most times it's underpayment, right? So a little bit of fear in getting things wrong. I think you could break it into many different cohorts. I think anybody starting a business now is like, no brainer, not using spreadsheets. Give me a system, give me a SaaS tool that's built in the cloud, that works really well, that's validated, like, and regulated, and I'll use that from the get-go. So we're actually seeing a lot of businesses that are new come to us and say, yeah, like, this is perfect for me right now.
Is it too soon? I mean, I know because I think since you've launched this product on a free basis, for you to have some stats on where you've seen impact on savings in time, cost, accuracy, employee experience, even engagement and retention, too soon to get those metrics? Have you got any stats or stories perhaps from the trenches?
Yeah, I can give. There's one recently. We did a deeper case study. So like we'll do a range of different types of case studies. One of the case studies we did recently was with the Housing Finance Corporation in the UK, and really for us, like, we brought that to life in a video. And I'll just frame this and say the payroll system that they are using in that case study is the same as the free payroll software that we're rolling out. Okay, so their director of people reported a 50% reduction in payroll processing time. Like, and I think they're an 80 to 90 person business, It was taking days and days. And what rung true for me as well, watching the videos and listening to the case study, is it's also the attitude towards payroll and how it's viewed. So it's gone from being viewed as this onerous task that people have to run every month to that's taken care of. This feels good. What else can we actually do in this space to improve? So it's a complete switch of mindset around how the director actually thinks about the business. But they were relying on completely outdated processes, not running by the skin of their teeth every month, but certainly feeling stressed every month to make sure everything was correct. And what I loved, I did spend quite a lot of time in audit as well. Their auditors have been in recently and said, cool, signed off. This is a really good process system. And that's just good validation, right? Like for us as well. So that's a really powerful one. We had a smaller business sign up recently with 10 employees. It's the Medical Defence Society. And, you know, the people running the business there, they're not qualified to run payroll. They're not in a position to hire somebody to run payroll full time. And this is really common across the UK. And we're not out there saying this means you don't have to hire a payroll professional. We're saying this is maybe your first step to improving your payroll process. Then you still need to have somebody to run the payroll properly. This is not a, hey, you can do everything yourself system, because you need to have the qualifications and understanding to get it right. And if you drive a system in the wrong way, you can end up in an even worse situation, okay? The owner of that business was cut the time on payroll by 90%. Simply because they were just so stuck in, how do I do this? I've got to learn it myself. Whereas the system can take care of a lot of that heavy lifting. They were falling, they were missing payroll deadlines. That's all been resolved. So for us, that's a big win. It's bringing value to our customers. We can then open the door to have more conversations to them about, well, when you grow bigger, what else do you think you need? Because we cover everything employment, what else can we actually showcase to you?
Sure. I mean, I've been there myself. I have a small company, 25 employees, and as a business owner, I was trying to do everything, spending hours watching YouTube videos to understand how to work out the VAT. And there's obviously always software and things out there that just automates and makes it so much easier. We want to be focused as owners on doing what we do well, which is driving business growth, not getting stuck in the minutiae of things that actually there's software and good SaaS platforms that can do the job for you. I want to make it clear as well to the audience that we've been talking today about a relatively new product. It's in the UK market, but actually Employment Hero serve over 300,000 businesses. You manage more than 2 million employees worldwide. So it's a much, much bigger scaled operation. You've got global insight, many countries. I said in introduction, of course, you've worked all over the world as well. How has that experience for you shaped how you're approaching the UK market? Question number one. And also question number two, while I've got you, what was the inspiration in the first place for yourself as managing director to really sort of come into this market from an accounting background and go, hey, this is the opportunity that I think we can put our flag in the sand and have a real opportunity here to become, in your words, number one in the future?
Yeah, two big questions. The first one is we're operational in Canada, the UK, Singapore, Malaysia, Australia, and New Zealand. It is amazing to see the same issues across such different countries. And I would even say the UK is quite different to Australia. Australia is quite different to Singapore and even New Zealand. But fundamentally, the same challenges are still there. Somebody starts a business because they have a passion or desire or skill and they want to actually have their own business. They don't get into business to deal with we'll call them compliance headaches, as I would say, are their words, which range across payroll, accounting, tax, company's house lodgements, right? Anything to do with the stuff that maybe they should have taught us in school, right? And they look at, well, what do I need here? How do I do it? And they actually live in this world where the reason why they're starting a business is because they're leaning on a skill set and knowledge base that they have where they would be considered an expert or they're passionate about something. And then they're catapulted into, I don't know all of this stuff, right? And they've got this kind of balance going on of I just want to be over here where my strengths are. And I really love this piece of running a business, but this bit, can somebody else just do it? Or can I hire someone to do it? That is common in every country we operate in. All right. So people actually get into business and then say, oh, what's all this compliance, piece that I have to do?
It's a fear. How do we scale? How do we grow? You don't know what you don't know. Where do you get started? I get it.
Yeah. I'm sure you've had it. I've had it. You have a moment in time where you're sitting at your desk or maybe in a coffee shop trying to figure something out, and you just can't figure it out. And you feel a bit silly. And it makes you feel a bit like oh, should I really be doing this? My message to those business owners is that's not why you got into business, right? Like you shouldn't have to be faced with this cost, financial cost and mental cost of actually running a business. So that's where we want to bring value into it and get them kind of into a state of mind where it's like, okay, I can focus on everything that I'm good with. And all that other piece that I know is really important, it's taken care of. Like I have a professional to help me. I've got the right systems and tools in there. Now he can get on with actually growing the business and doing the things that I really like to do. Why the UK? So we actually acquired a business called KeyPay. I think it's 4 years ago now. And that was the big change in the trajectory of our business. So Employment Hero is 10 years old this year. Predominantly Australia based. Acquired KeyPay to bring payroll and HR together. And the way we see the world is employee files, employee data should not be spread over 5 or 6 different systems. Like it is just poor data management to do that. Bringing everything together under the umbrella of employment gets you to think differently about the experience of the employer and the employee, and not just in silos, like, payroll here and how do we build everything that's payroll. When we bought KeyPay, that was a massive trigger for growth in the business. SMEs looked at us and said, actually, yeah, this does make sense. Like we just want one system to do everything. And then we added on recruitment. We have an LMS in there. People can engage in EAP service for mental health services. And you just think of the whole world of employment and the experience of the employee and employer. But why the UK? The UK was a natural step for us. KeyPay were already operational in the UK, very much serving payroll bureaus and accounting firms in the UK. And we continue to do so. We've improved our bureau offering massively. And that is almost free. I'll just add that in. We charge I'll call it a nominal fee of £1,000 a year for unlimited usage of the bureau system. So that is definitely making waves as well already, because a lot of bureaus and firms are trying to figure out, well, how do we service our clients more? And we're getting pushed on fees. And we said, well, we'll take the compliance technology costs down. The UK is also a heavily compliance and regulated market. So I think systems like ours that come off the basis of compliance do really well in countries where there's heavy compliance, right? So you have to actually go in and solve the headache first. But the headache is the paracetamol. The system and the capability and everything that you can do with it is actually the vitamins, right? Like how do you power vitamins into the business? And the UK is a terrific market for us. It's very competitive, but we are one of, you could say maybe 2 platforms in the UK that can house payroll and HR together under the umbrella of everything employment. We're seeing competitors follow suit pretty quickly. I think people are realizing like this is the future. I'm a big believer that we're at the start of what I call mass SaaS consolidation. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people like there was this advent of SaaS systems coming out, accounting here, point of sale here. And what we've seen over that period is, yes, they're all great systems. There's almost product and capability creep across a lot of systems now. And in that 10 years, there's been billing inflation, right? Like pricing inflation. So an SME now is likely ending up with 5, 6 systems to run employment across their business. They've had pricing inflation all the way through. Some of the systems do too, like could cover both, they could use one system or 2. We showed them Employment Hero and they're kind of saying, hang on a second, I could pretty much go from 5 systems to 1. There's huge value in that. Even the mental load, cognitive relief, I call it, of not having to train new people on 5 systems when they come into your business. Like just use one. And we're doing really well in the UK. I'm proud to say, like it's really important to us. For me personally, born in Ireland, spent some time in the UK 20 years ago, lived down in Jersey, in the Channel Islands. I've gone around the world, and I do love an adventure. So I was in Singapore 18 months ago, and my boss asked me to consider this opportunity. I chuckled because myself and my wife had just found out we were having twins. And then we said, thank you. And then we said, let's do it, right? Like you only get one shot at this life, like, and you really got to give it everything. I think many people would have sat there and said, actually, not a good time for the family. I'm not going to take this on. But we said yes, and we're here now and enjoying it. And I'm learning about the UK, the intricacies of the UK market every day. It's a big, chunky market, tons of opportunity. But I feel like we already have a great offering, and we're only getting stronger, like each day and each week.
I mean, there's loads of passion for payroll in the UK. I know that for sure. I've learned that through this podcast and through my experiences, in 22 years of recruiting in this space. So you've come into an exciting, passionate market for raising the profile, which is good. I couldn't agree more about the tech consolidation piece. We're seeing that even in our space in recruitment. In recruitment, we had 24 different systems we were probably utilizing to source different types of talent. And now we've gone through a consolidation process ourselves. And we've seen a lot of that happen in the market as well. I think it's, you're also seeing a lot of mergers and acquisitions start to happen in this space. You mentioned KeyPay yourselves, but it kind of makes sense to consolidate it and offer that kind of solution. But lastly, I want to finish today's episode in terms of the main part of the show is going back to that employee experience piece. We've talked a lot about that free payroll software, which is an amazing concept for people being able to adopt then from spreadsheet into their first experience into automation, AI, holistic systems, does more than payroll and so on. I want to get to grips with how this really improves the employee experience. This is something we didn't really talk about in payroll a couple of years ago. Now it's absolutely rife. It's really, really important that we do. It's been the main factor about why payroll has risen in profile, because people now understand its relationships to that employee experience. So how do you approach that employee experience piece from employee and hero's perspective? And have you seen payroll shift as a result?
Yeah, there's two pieces to this. I think one, I think you'd expect me to say it's making sure people are paid accurately and on time, right? Like, so you make sure that is actually, like, that is confirmed. You don't have any worries about it. You're not making mistakes throughout the year. And you need a system to help you do that, not a spreadsheet. So that's that piece. Then on the second part is, it comes back to something I said at the start. Who was that person that decided that everyone had to work for a month and then get paid on the last business day? And it's so funny because it's typical globally, right? Like, you give your time, and obviously I understand SMEs inside out. There's cash flow considerations. They got to manage the business. So we think about the employee experience. So how could an employee have a much better experience because their employer chooses employment hero? One, the accuracy. Two, the most important piece to the majority of employees across the globe is access to their cash. Yeah, like being able to run their life in a way where they get paid for what they do quickly and on time. Yeah. So this concept has not been, I wouldn't say it's groundbreaking, because earned wage access has been around in many forms for a long time. Unfortunately, that industry can have a lot of like bad eggs in there, right? Like, and interest rates and compounding interest rates and bad debts, because an individual gets himself into a little bit of trouble because they can't pay back on time. They suddenly end up with like huge bills, right? Like in debt. So we're looking at ways that we can support the SME from a cash flow perspective. So we're not asking them to pay people at the end of each day. But what we've challenged ourselves with is, why do people not get paid every day? And that's the kind of framing around it. We don't expect our client, i.e. the SME, to pay for this. So we're looking at ways to actually revolutionize the concept of earned wage access and make sure that there's not these like extensive, what I would call rip-off interest rates to the individual. It is very well managed. It's contained. The individuals aren't exposed and bringing more financial risk into their life. So that's a big area that we're looking at. I would add probably a third piece now that I think of it. the Employment Hero app. So a lot of like apps that you get with technology now, they are quite transactional, right? Like you check it, you check something, you book leave. We want the Employment Hero app to live with someone all the way through their career, and they can have all the typical records in there, like every pay slip that they've ever been given, in multiple employers, all actually in the app on their side. We're thinking about ways where, especially for, say, blue-collar workers or hospitality and retail, they could get ratings from their employers, kind of like a performance review. And it's validated and verified in the app, and they keep that with them, right? Like for their career journey. And if they apply for a role back through the Employment Hero jobs portal, it will surface their ratings from verified employers. And it should speed up employment, right? Like getting people actually into these roles quicker and quicker. So that's kind of the areas that we're exploring, which I think brings a lot of value to an employee. Like I'm sure you speak to job seekers all the time. I hear from job seekers all the time. It's still really tough out there, right? Like the jobs boards are a little bit of a black hole, and it's really trying to circumvent the gap between the employer and the employee, and actually get people in front of each other much quicker. You guys are the specialists at it, in your space. We're looking at ways like, well, how else can we help? Like if we're going to say we're making employment more valuable, how else can we help actually match that talent and give both people a much better experience? But if we can nail the experience for the employee, both all the typical things like pay slips and record keeping and all the history of their career, and then they can find opportunities through Employment Hero, that's massive for us.
Yeah, it's great. Look, for me as a podcast host of this show, it's great to have a guest, and all of my guests hopefully are also passionate about raising the profile and all doing it in slightly different ways. But the questions you ask there of your business and what you're trying to achieve are the questions I think all suppliers need to be asking themselves. How can we improve the experience for the employee? How can we improve the experience for the payroll staff processing the payroll for those employees? How can we improve the experience for the C-suite that want to get the reports and understand payroll better, and how it can have a strategic impact on their business? So I think they're all great questions. I'm really excited to see how Employment Hero really starts to make its mark in the UK payroll space in particular. And of course, you've already got a great presence worldwide. So really interesting conversation. I'm going to open the payroll vault. So 3 quick-fire questions for you now, Kevin. First one is this. One piece of advice you would give to someone starting their career in payroll today?
Oh, wow. Very similar to the accounting industry. I'd say get in there in the technology and play with it yourself before you even get started. Like you can do a free trial of pretty much everything. Like there's great resources on how to use systems. Like go to an interview and tell the interviewee or the interviewer you've already tried all the systems and give an opinion. Yeah, no. Like set yourself apart from the rest of the candidates. Yeah.
And that's very possible to do, by the way. Very possible to do. You're right. And a lot of people do that for sure. Question. What's the one thing you know now that you wish you'd known when you started your career?
That 26 years later, I'd still be talking about digitisation. I didn't. Yeah. Like it was, we had a few PCs in the office back then, but people talk about like the advent of technology. It comes in waves, right? Like it's the next wave, but there's 31% of businesses in the UK are still on spreadsheets. It's like what? Yeah.
It does feel like something I've been talking about certainly since 2018 when I launched the show. It's only probably the last 12 months we've really started to see it ramp with the adoption of AI coming in and some quicker advancements. But you're absolutely right. I remember 20 years ago I was talking about the digitization of payroll and recruitment in those days, and we're still talking about it now. Last question. If payroll was a book, a movie, or a song, what would it be and why?
Oh, can we go Fast and Furious?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah,
I think people want it to be fast. I think they want to remove the time that it takes to do it. And I think you can get furious if you get it wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I feel like you've thought about that one. I like it very much. Well, thank you ever so much for joining me today on the Payroll Podcast. I think generally the move to offer free payroll is going to be a game changer for SMEs. I hope for anyone that's listening to this, if you want to find out more, there will be links in the show notes directly through to the website, employmenthero.com/. UK. There is also a link to the free payroll software as well, so you can indeed go and try it out for yourself. That link will be in the show notes. I'll also include a link to Kevin's LinkedIn profile as well if you want to contact Kevin directly and find out more, or indeed continue the conversation. For anyone who's listening who wants to learn more about Kevin's work as well, please do follow him on LinkedIn. Follow Employment here. There's loads of resource on that website and more. Please do also remember to follow this show to get all the latest interviews from the guests that are really changing the face of payroll. Together as a community, we're going to raise that profile. So please, if you can, share this episode with your colleagues and friends. If you can, review it. That actually enables the algorithms on both YouTube and Apple and all the other platforms to share it with a bigger audience as well. So please do that for me. I'd be very grateful. But more than anything, thank you, Kevin, for joining me today on the Payroll Podcast to talk about free payroll software. Whoever thought I'd be talking about that on this show? Thank you ever so much. It's been a really interesting conversation.
Thanks, Nick. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Global teams are more connected today than ever, but managing payroll, HR, and IT can still feel fragmented. But Deel simplifies global work with one platform that keeps everything running smoothly. No compliance guesswork, no third-party payroll, just seamless operations backed by 24/7 expert support. That's why over 35,000 companies trust Deel to handle their global workforce. Visit deel.com/nickday to see how Deel can help. That's DEEL.com/NICKDAY. Deel, your forever people platform.